I'd broken into the wrong mansion. The very wrong mansion. And the man holding the knife wasn't just any territorial alpha protecting his property. Those crimson eyes glowing in the darkness, that suffocating power pressing against my chest like a physical weight. I knew exactly who he was. Cale Bloodstone, the Alpha King they whispered about in terrified voices. The one they said bathed in the blood of his enemies. The one no one had seen in 5 years. Not since the Night of Ash when he'd slaughtered every member of the Shadow Council who'd tried to overthrow him. Welcome to my channel Rose and Retribution. Don't forget to like and subscribe because this story gets darker with every twist. And I'd just broken into his private chambers looking for evidence that didn't exist. The thief who couldn't run. Most thieves run when they're caught, Cale said, his voice like smoke and sin sliding across my skin. But you're just standing there, heart racing, trying to decide if you can reach the window before I slit your throat. Spoiler alert, you can't. I should have been terrified. I was terrified. But I was also furious because this entire night had been a setup. My stepbrother Marcus had sent me here with false information. Told me this mansion belonged to a corrupt merchant who'd stolen my mother's inheritance. Promised me I'd find the documents proving our family's land had been taken illegally. He'd known. The bastard had known exactly whose territory he was sending me into. I'm not a thief, I said, hating how my voice shook. I'm looking for documents about the Silverwood territory. I was told they were here. Cale's laugh was dark, dangerous. He moved closer and I could finally see him properly in the moonlight streaming through the window I just climbed through. He was devastatingly beautiful in the way apex predators are beautiful, all sharp angles and lethal grace. His hair was black as midnight, falling to his shoulders in waves that somehow looked both wild and deliberately styled. His face was carved from stone and shadow, all harsh lines and cruel beauty. But it was his eyes that trapped me. Crimson, like fresh blood, like rubies soaked in violence. Silverwood territory, he repeated, tilting his head like a wolf considering its prey. That's interesting, because Silverwood territory was dissolved 5 years ago when Alpha Marcus Silverwood tried to have me assassinated during the peace summit. I killed him. I killed his entire bloodline. Or so I thought. My stomach dropped. What? You have his scent buried beneath whatever you've used to mask it. Wolfsbane and Silver Ash clever, but not clever enough. Your Silverwood bloodline, which means you shouldn't exist. The knife pressed closer and I felt a thin line of blood trickle down my neck. So tell me, little thief, who are you really? And why did someone send you here to die? The truth that shattered everything. My name is Sarah, I said, the words tumbling out in a rush. Everyone knew Elena. She was promised to my father as part of an alliance treaty before she fell in love with her human and ran. Cale's expression was unreadable. Your stepbrother Marcus is the current alpha of what remains of Silverwood Pack. And he just sent his half-human niece into my home, unarmed, with a story that would guarantee your death if I believed you were part of a revival attempt of the old bloodline. The pieces clicked together with horrifying clarity. He wants me dead. He sent me here knowing you'd kill me for being Silverwood. Smart girl. Cale finally lowered the knife but didn't step back. We were so close I could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell leather and smoke and something wild that made my wolf, my barely there, half-awakened wolf, press against my consciousness in instinctive submission. The question is, what do I do with you now? I could kill you and solve the problem. One less Silverwood is always a good thing. Or, I whispered. His smile was razor-sharp and full of dangerous promise. Or I could use you. See, I've been trying to get close to your stepbrother for months. He's building something in the shadows, gathering rogues and criminals, planning something that could destabilize the entire Northern Territory. But he's careful, paranoid, won't meet with anyone he doesn't trust completely, except family. My blood ran cold. You want me to spy on him? I want you to infiltrate his pack, gain his trust, and find out what he's planning before it's too late. Cale's hand came up to cup my jaw, forcing me to meet those crimson eyes. In exchange, I'll give you what you actually came looking for, the truth about your mother's lands, about why she really left, about the Silverwood legacy that should have been yours. And I'll keep you alive when Marcus inevitably realizes his plan to have me kill you failed. And if I refuse, then I kill you right now and dump your body on Marcus's doorstep as a message. He sent an assassin, a terrible, obvious assassin, but an assassin nonetheless. That requires a response. His thumb traced my jaw with surprising gentleness for someone threatening murder. Choose quickly. My patience isn't unlimited. The devil's bargain. I should have fought, should have tried to run, should have done anything except what I did. But standing there in the moonlight with a killer's hand on my face, I saw something in Cale's eyes that made me pause. Beneath the cruelty and the power and the violence, there was pain. Old pain. The kind that never quite heals. I'll do it, I said. But I have conditions. Cale's eyebrow rose. You're negotiating? With a knife at your throat. You already decided not to kill me or I'd be dead. So yes, I'm negotiating. I forced steel into my voice even though I was shaking. First, you tell me everything about what happened to the Silverwood pack. Not the public story. The truth. Second, when this is over, you give me a full accounting of what my mother was owed, property, gold, everything. And you help me claim it legally. And third, you train me. I'm half human, barely shifted, and I know nothing about being a wolf. If I'm going into Marcus's territory, I need to be able to defend myself. I need to know what I'm doing. Something flickered in Cale's eyes. Respect, maybe, or amusement. You have courage. Stupid courage, but courage nonetheless. He stepped back finally, giving me space to breathe. Fine, I'll train you. 3 months. That's how long you have to prepare before Marcus stops looking for your body and starts wondering why you haven't contacted him. During that time, you'll live here under my protection and supervision. You'll learn to fight, to hunt, to use the wolf inside you that's been dormant too long. And I'll teach you everything you need to know about the game we're playing. Why are you really doing this? I asked, rubbing my throat where the knife had been. You could just storm Marcus's territory and take what you want. You're the Alpha King. You don't need a spy. Cale's smile turned cold. Because I want him to suffer. Marcus Silverwood was there the night his father tried to have me killed. He was 16, too young to be charged with conspiracy, but old enough to watch and do nothing while they murdered my mate. His voice went flat, emotionless, which was somehow worse than anger. She was pregnant. 3 months. They slit her throat in front of me while I was bound in silver chains, forced to watch her bleed out while our unborn child died inside her. Then they tried to execute me. Obviously, they failed. The room felt colder suddenly.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Help me destroy the last of the bloodline that took everything from me. Help me make Marcus Silverwood watch his entire world burn before I end him. Do that, and I'll give you everything you came looking for and more. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal, little thief? I looked at his offered hand, at the scarred knuckles and the promise of violence they represented. I thought about my mother dying without ever telling me the truth, about Marcus sending me to my death with a smile, about being alone in a world I didn't understand with nowhere to go and no one to trust. I took Cale's hand. His grip was firm, warm, and I felt power surge between us like a living thing. A bond snapped into place, not a mate bond. Those were rare, precious things, but something else. A blood oath. A promise sealed in magic that neither of us could break without consequences. 3 months, I said. Then I go into Marcus's territory and find out what he's planning. 3 months, Cale agreed. Then his smile turned dangerous. Starting now, your first lesson begins at dawn. I suggest you get some sleep. You're going to need it. He left me standing there in his chambers, my hand still tingling from where he'd touched me, my throat still bleeding slightly from his knife, and my entire life irrevocably changed. I'd come looking for answers about my mother's past. Instead, I'd made a deal with the devil himself. And somehow, despite everything, I wasn't sorry. Forbidden romance and secrets. Dawn came too soon. I learned 3 things in my first week training with Cale Bloodstone. 1. He was a brutal, merciless teacher who showed no mercy even though I was half-human and barely functional as a wolf. 2. The darkness inside him wasn't just trauma. It was something older, something that scared even his own elite guards. And 3. I was falling for him, which was absolutely the worst possible thing that could happen. The training grounds were empty when I arrived at dawn, just like Kale had ordered. The morning air was cold enough to see my breath, and my muscles still screamed from yesterday's session. He'd made me shift 7 times in a row until I'd collapsed from exhaustion, then forced me to get up and do it again. "Your wolf is lazy," he'd said while I lay gasping on the ground. "She's been sleeping for 23 years. Time to wake her up properly." "You're late." Kale's voice came from behind me, and I spun to find him leaning against a tree, already dressed for training in black pants and nothing else. His chest was a roadmap of scars, claw marks, bite marks, what looked like ritual scarring forming patterns across his ribs. I said, "Dawn, the sun is already touching the horizon." "By 30 seconds, I protested. 30 seconds is the difference between living and dying. He pushed off the tree and stalked toward me with that predatory grace that made my wolf sit up and pay attention. In battle, in espionage, in survival, timing is everything. You need to be faster, stronger, more aware. Right now, you're none of those things. "I'm trying. Trying isn't good enough." He grabbed my arm and before I could react, flipped me onto my back in the dirt. The breath whooshed out of my lungs. "Marcus's pack won't care that you're trying. They'll smell weakness and tear you apart." Again. We went through the drill 5 more times. Each time I hit the ground. Each time, Kale's expression remained impassive. By the 6th attempt, I was furious enough to forget technique and just fought on instinct. I dodged his grab, used his momentum against him, and actually managed to sweep his legs. For one glorious second, I thought I'd succeeded. Then I was on my back again with Kale looming over me, his hand at my throat. Not squeezing, just resting there like a reminder. "Better," he said, and his voice had gone lower, rougher. "You stopped thinking and started feeling. That's what you need." We were too close. His body was pressed against mine, pinning me to the ground, and I could feel every muscled line of him. His eyes had darkened from crimson to something deeper, and the way he was looking at me made heat pool low in my belly. "Kale," I whispered. He released me immediately and stepped back like I'd burned him. "Again," he said, his voice back to cold command. 20 more times. Then we work on tracking. The secret in the library. That night, exhausted and sore, I couldn't sleep. The mansion was massive, more castle than house, with wings I hadn't explored yet. Kale had made it clear I was free to go anywhere except his private study and the sealed wing on the east side. "That's where I keep the things that would drive you mad," he'd said with dark humor. "Best to avoid temptation." Naturally, I headed for the library instead, which he'd said was open territory. The library was stunning, 3 stories of books with a spiral staircase connecting the levels. I was browsing the history section, looking for anything about the Silverwood Pack when I found it. A journal wedged behind other books, hidden deliberately. The leather was worn, the pages yellowed with age. And on the first page, in elegant script, the private journal of Elena Silverwood. My mother's journal. My hands shook as I opened it. The entries were dated from 24 years ago, right before she left the pack. I devoured the pages, learning things that made my heart ache. They don't understand. They think I'm abandoning duty for love, but it's so much more than that. The Silverwood Pack is rotting from within. Father's obsession with power, with the old rituals, with blood magic. It's consuming him. He wants to bind me to the bloodstone heir not for alliance but for the ritual. The crimson binding. He thinks if he can merge our bloodlines through forced mating, he can steal the bloodstone power for himself. I found the grimoire in his study. I know what he's planning. The assassination at the Peace Summit, the murder of Kale's mate, the attempt to drain Kale's alpha power while he's weakened by grief. All of it is in there, written in Father's own hand. I tried to tell Mother, tried to warn the council, but no one believes me. They think I'm making excuses to avoid my duty. So I'm leaving. I'm taking the grimoire with me, and I'm running with my human love. Our child will be free of this darkness. She'll never know the corruption that runs through Silverwood blood. And maybe, someday, someone will stop Father before it's too late. The journal fell from my hands. My mother hadn't run from duty. She'd run from conspiracy to murder. She'd tried to stop the assassination attempt on Cale. And she'd been carrying evidence the entire time. A grimoire that detailed dark magic rituals that should have been destroyed centuries ago. I wondered when you'd find that. Cale's voice came from the doorway, and I looked up to find him watching me with an unreadable expression. I put it there 3 days ago. Wanted to see how long it would take you to go looking for answers. You knew? I breathed. You knew my mother tried to stop what happened to you. I didn't know until after. 6 months after the attack, I tracked down every piece of evidence, every whisper of information. Found her letters to the council warning them. Found witnesses who saw her arguing with her father. By then, she was already gone. Disappeared so completely I thought she might be dead. He moved into the library, his bare feet silent on the wooden floor. When you told me who you were, I realized she'd succeeded in hiding. She'd found peace with your human father. Had you lived a quiet life away from all this darkness? The grimoire she mentioned, I said, standing up. Did she take it with her?
No.
Marcus has it. That's what he's using to build his power base, to perform rituals that should be forbidden. That's what I need you to find and destroy. Cale's eyes met mine. Your mother died trying to stop the Silverwood corruption. I'm asking you to finish what she started. The weight of it settled on my shoulders. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about stopping the same dark magic that had nearly destroyed everything 5 years ago. Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? I asked. Because I needed to know if you were like them or like her. If you'd run at the first sign of danger or if you'd stand and fight. He moved closer, reaching out to touch the journal with gentle fingers. Elena Silverwood was the bravest person I ever met. She risked everything to try to stop her own family from committing atrocities. When you broke into my mansion looking for truth instead of running to safety, when you negotiated with a blade at your throat, when you've pushed through every brutal training session without quitting, that's when I knew. You're your mother's daughter. The line we couldn't uncross. There's something else you should know, Cale said, and his voice had gone careful, guarded. The crimson binding your grandfather wanted to force. It's a dark magic ritual that bonds 2 alphas together, supposedly merging their power. But it only works under specific conditions. 1. The participants must be from bloodlines that have never mixed. 2. The ritual must be performed during a blood moon. And 3. I prompted when he hesitated. 3. The participants must share true mate bond potential. Not necessarily awakened mates, but the possibility must exist. His eyes locked on mine. Your mother was supposed to be bound to my father. When he died and I became Alpha King, the potential transferred to me. Which means you and I. No, I said, stepping back. No, that's impossible. Mate bonds are rare. The chances of... I've known since the moment I touched you in my chambers. Cale interrupted, his voice rough. When we made the blood oath and that bond snapped into place. It wasn't just a magical contract, Sarah. It was the mate bond beginning to wake. I've been fighting it for weeks, trying to ignore it, trying to keep my distance during training. But it's getting stronger. Every time I touch you, every time I'm near you, it pulls tighter. I could feel it now that he'd named it. That pull in my chest, that instinct that made me want to move closer to him, that made my wolf restless and yearning. But you said your mate died. You can't have a second mate bond. That's not how it works. I said the woman I loved died. She was my chosen mate, not my true mate. We were building something real, something beautiful, but it wasn't fated. Pain flickered across his face. The mate bond doesn't care about past loves or logical timing or the fact that you're here to spy on your own family. It just is. What do? I whispered. We ignore it? Kale said firmly, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands were clenched. We focus on the mission. You infiltrate Marcus's pack, you find the grimoire, you discover what ritual he's planning. Then we destroy it all and go our separate ways. The bond will fade if we don't acknowledge it, if we don't complete it. And if it doesn't fade, then we deal with that when the time comes. He turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start working on your infiltration cover story. You'll need to be convincing when you show up at Marcus's territory pretending you escaped my capture. He left me standing there in the library, my mother's journal in my hands and the truth burning in my chest. The Alpha King who'd sworn revenge on my family was my true mate. The man training me to infiltrate and destroy was the one person in this world I was magically bound to protect. And somehow, I had to choose between saving him and destroying my family's legacy. The universe, I decided, had a terrible sense of humor. 2.5 months of training had transformed me. I could shift smoothly now, could fight with claws and teeth and brutal efficiency. I could track prey through dense forest, could sense lies and speech patterns, could move through shadows like I was born to them. Kale had remade me into a weapon. He'd also been avoiding me. Since the night in the library, we'd maintained careful distance. Training was professional, cold, focused entirely on technique with no personal conversation. He'd stopped eating meals with me, stopped checking on me in the evenings, stopped everything except the bare minimum required to prepare me for the mission. It was killing me. The mate bond pulled tighter every day, making my wolf restless and irritable. I could feel Kale's presence in the mansion like a constant ache, could sense his emotions bleeding through the bond, frustration, longing, iron control keeping everything locked down tight. 3 days before I was scheduled to approach Marcus's territory, Kale's head guard Marcus burst into my training session with urgent news. My lord, we've intercepted communications. Marcus is performing the Crimson Binding in 5 days. During the blood moon. Kale went rigid. With whom? He needs another alpha bloodline that hasn't mixed with Silverwood. A woman named Lydia Blackthorn. She's from the Southern Territories, recently arrived. 25 years old, strong alpha bloodline. No previous connections to northern packs. Marcus glanced at me nervously. Her description matches Sarah's. Similar height, similar coloring. Marcus told his inner circle she's the backup in case his original plan failed. My stomach dropped. He was planning this from the beginning. Sending me here wasn't just to get rid of me. It was testing whether I'd survive, whether I was strong enough for the ritual. And when I didn't die, he found someone else who looked like me to take my place. The ritual requires willing participation, Kale said, but his voice was tight. Lydia must be going along with it, which means she either doesn't know what she's agreeing to, or she's ambitious enough not to care. The Crimson Binding doesn't just merge power, I said, remembering what I'd read in my mother's journal. It consumes one of the participants. The stronger alpha drains the weaker one completely, taking all their power and leaving them an empty shell. Marcus is planning to drain this woman and add her power to his own, making him strong enough to challenge me. Kale's eyes had gone full crimson, burning with fury. He's going to create an artificial power boost that could actually threaten my territory. We need to stop this. Now. The infiltration. We had 3 days to get into Marcus's territory, find the grimoire, and stop the ritual. The original plan of me slowly infiltrating over weeks was worthless now. We needed something faster, messier, more desperate. I'll go in as planned, I said. Show up claiming I escaped your dungeon and need sanctuary. Marcus will be suspicious, but he'll want to keep me close to see if I'm useful. I'll find the grimoire and sabotage the ritual. You'll be walking into a trap, Kale said flatly. He knows you might come back. He'll be watching for exactly this. Then we make it convincing. I met his eyes. You need to hurt me. Make it look real. Scars that show I've been tortured. Injuries that prove I barely escaped. If Marcus sees me damaged, he'll believe I'm desperate enough to come crawling back. Kale's expression turned thunderous. Absolutely not. It's the only way. I won't hurt you. His voice dropped to a growl. Don't ask me to do that. Then Marcus succeeds, drains that woman, and comes after your territory with stolen power. More people die. The cycle continues. I stepped closer, ignoring how the mate bond flared with proximity. You've spent months teaching me to be brutal, to sacrifice anything for the mission. This is me being brutal. This is me sacrificing my comfort for success. So do it. Hurt me enough to make it convincing. The internal war on his face was agonizing to watch. Finally, he said, there's another way. A marking that looks like torture but uses magic instead of actual injury. It'll hurt like hell, but it won't cause permanent damage. And it'll fade after 48 hours. How long to apply it? 6 hours of sustained magical pain. His jaw clenched. You'll scream. You'll beg me to stop. Your body will think it's being flayed alive even though there's no real damage. It's not something I want to do to you. But it'll work? Yes. Then we start now. We're wasting time. The price of convincing lies. Hale was right. It was the worst pain I'd ever experienced. For 6 hours, I lay on a ritual circle while he channeled magic through silver implements that burned patterns into my skin. The patterns looked like torture scars, whip marks, burn marks, evidence of systematic brutality. But they were pure magic, illusion made real enough to fool even enhanced senses. I did scream. I did beg him to stop. And through it all, I could feel Kale's agony through the mate bond. His horror at causing me pain. His fury at having to do this. His desperate control keeping his hands steady even as everything in him wanted to stop. When it was finally done, I looked like I'd been tortured for weeks. Kale looked like he'd aged years. I'm sorry, he said roughly, helping me sit up. Sira, I'm so sorry. Don't be. This is what needs to happen. I touched his face, feeling the bond sing between us. When this is over, when we've stopped Marcus. When this is over, you disappear? Kale interrupted firmly. You take your mother's inheritance, you go somewhere safe and quiet, and you forget about all of this. Forget about me. The mate bond doesn't work that way. Then we'll find a way to break it. A witch, a ritual, something. Because you deserve better than being bound to someone like me. Someone who just spent 6 hours causing you pain. Who's planning to use you as a disposable spy. Who can't offer you anything but violence and darkness. His voice cracked slightly. You deserve the kind of peace your mother found. Not this. I wanted to argue, but there wasn't time. We had a ritual to stop and a monster to defeat. Inside the viper's nest. Marcus welcomed me with open arms and suspicious eyes. The Silverwood Pack territory was smaller than I'd expected, carved into mountain caves that reeked of old magic and older secrets. About 40 wolves lived here, all of them looking lean and hungry, dangerous in the way desperate people become dangerous. My dear half-sister, Marcus said, examining my false torture scars with satisfaction. I'd heard rumors you'd been captured. I mourned your loss. Liar. He kept me in his dungeons for 2 months. Used me for information about Silverwood history, about you, about our family. I told him nothing. I let my voice shake convincingly. But I couldn't take any more. I waited until the guards changed shift and I ran. I've been running for 3 days. I didn't know where else to go. Marcus stroked his beard thoughtfully. He was handsome in a cold way, with dark hair and calculating eyes that saw everything. And why should I trust you? How do I know this isn't Bloodstone's plan? Sending you here as a spy? Because he tortured me? I said, pulling down my shirt to show the worst of the scars. Because I hate him. Because I want revenge for what he did to me. And I'll do anything to help you destroy him. Something gleamed in Marcus's eyes. Satisfaction. Cruel pleasure. Anything? Anything. The grimoire's true purpose. Marcus kept me close over the next 2 days, testing me constantly with small tasks and careful questions. I played the part of traumatized, eager to please victim perfectly, helped by the very real exhaustion and pain from Kale's marking ritual. On the second night, Marcus took me to his private chambers. The grimoire was there, sitting openly on his desk like he wasn't even trying to hide it. My mother's warnings covered the margins in frantic handwriting. "I want to show you something," Marcus said, opening the book to a marked page. "Your mother stole this from our father. Did you know that? She thought she was protecting the world from dangerous knowledge. But really, she was just afraid. Afraid of what the Silverwood Pack could become with real power." The page showed the crimson binding ritual in detail. But there was more. Notes in Marcus's handwriting describing modifications to the ritual, ways to enhance it, to make the power transfer more complete. "You're planning to drain Lydia Blackthorne completely," I said, not having to fake my horror. "This isn't just about borrowing power. You're going to kill her." "She's a volunteer," Marcus said with a shrug. "She knows the price and she's willing to pay it for the honor of strengthening the Silverwood bloodline. Besides, her power alone isn't enough. The ritual requires a catalyst, someone of mixed bloodline to anchor the magic, someone with connection to both old and new, human and wolf." Dread filled my stomach. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you're going to help me, dear sister. Your half-human blood makes you perfect for the catalyst role. You won't be drained like Lydia, but you will be bound to me, your power feeding mine for the rest of your life. And together, with Lydia's stolen strength and your anchoring magic, I'll be powerful enough to kill Cale Bloodstone and take his throne." He'd planned this from the very beginning. Every moment, every manipulation, every move had been steering me toward this, being his living battery, his source of sustainable power that would make him unkillable. "And if I refuse?" I asked. Marcus smiled. "Then I'll use the backup plan. Did you think I didn't know about your mate bond with Bloodstone? I've had seers watching both of you for weeks. The bond is still forming, still vulnerable. If you don't participate willingly, I'll simply kill you, let Bloodstone feel your death through the bond, and use his resulting magical backlash to fuel the ritual instead. Either way, I win." The blood moon rises. I had to get word to Cale, but Marcus wasn't stupid. He kept me locked in a warded room under constant guard. The ritual was set for midnight, only 8 hours away. I could feel Cale through the bond, could sense his growing desperation as he realized something was wrong. Then, miraculously, one of my guards spoke in Cale's voice. "Shift change in 20 minutes. When the door opens, run north. I'll be waiting." It was Fox, Cale's spy master, using his gift for vocal mimicry. He'd infiltrated the guards. The escape went exactly as planned. I ran north through the forest with borrowed speed, following Cale's pull through the mate bond. He met me at the territory border with his elite guard, all of them armed for war. "Marcus knows," I gasped. "About the mate bond, about everything. The ritual isn't just draining Lydia. He's going to use me as a catalyst to make the power permanent. And if I refuse, he'll kill me and use the bond backlash anyway." Cale's face went cold and deadly. "Then we end this tonight. All of it. The final battle." We hit the Silverwood territory during the ritual. Marcus had Lydia already bound in silver chains on the altar, the grimoire open and glowing with dark magic. He'd been so confident I'd be brought back by his guards that he'd waited to start the ritual itself. The look on his face when Cale and his elite guard burst into the ritual chamber was almost worth everything I'd been through. "This is illegal magic," Cale declared, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Marcus Silverwood, you're under arrest for practicing forbidden blood rituals, conspiracy to murder, and attempted theft of alpha power. Surrender now and you'll be granted a fair trial." Marcus laughed. "A fair trial? From you? The man who slaughtered my entire family. Your family tried to assassinate me and murdered my pregnant mate. They paid the price for their crimes." Cale's eyes burned crimson. "But I was willing to let the bloodline continue through those not involved in the conspiracy. You were 16. You could have been spared. Instead, you chose to follow in your father's footsteps, to use the same dark magic that got him killed. You chose this." "I choose power," Marcus snarled. Then he lunged for the grimoire. The battle was brutal and fast. Marcus had his loyal wolves, but they were no match for Cale's elite guard. I fought too, using everything Kale had taught me, taking down wolves who'd stood by while Marcus planned murder. But Marcus himself was heading for Lydia, knife in hand. If he killed her on the altar during the blood moon, the dark magic would still activate, would still consume her power even without the full ritual. I ran faster than I'd ever run before, shifted mid-leap, and slammed into Marcus just as his blade was descending. We tumbled across the ritual chamber in a tangle of fur and claws and fury. Marcus was stronger than I expected, his body already enhanced by preliminary ritual magic. He threw me off, shifted to his massive black wolf, and lunged for my throat. I barely dodged, felt his teeth graze my shoulder, tasted my own blood. Then Kale was there, his white wolf form larger and more terrifying than anything I'd seen. Alpha King versus Pretender Alpha, old magic versus stolen power. They clashed with brutal force, and I knew Kale was pulling his punches. Not because he was merciful, but because killing Marcus during the ritual would trigger the dark magic anyway. Sera. Ash, the elite guard healer, was cutting Lydia free from the altar. The grimoire. Destroy it. I shifted back to human and grabbed the ancient book. It burned my hands with dark magic, fighting me, trying to complete its purpose. But I thought about my mother, about her warnings in the margins, about her trying to stop this exact horror. I ripped pages, tore bindings, fed the pieces into the ritual fire that Marcus had prepared. The grimoire screamed. An actual sound, like something dying, and dark magic exploded outward in a concussive blast that threw everyone to the ground. When the smoke cleared, Marcus was human again, aged decades in seconds, his stolen power gone. The grimoire was ash, and the ritual was broken. The price of justice. Kale stood over Marcus with silver chains, binding him with efficient brutality. You're done. The Northern Council will judge you for your crimes. And this time, there will be no mercy for youth or ignorance. You knew exactly what you were doing. Marcus laughed, blood bubbling from his lips. You think this is over? You think I'm the only one who wants your power? There are others, Bloodstone. Stronger, smarter, more patient. They'll come for you. And they'll come for her. He looked at me. Your precious mate. Do you really think you can protect her? You couldn't protect the last woman you loved. Kale's fist moved so fast I barely saw it. Marcus slumped unconscious. Take him to the cells, Kale ordered his guards, and gather the Silverwood Pack members. Anyone who participated in this willingly will face trial. Anyone who was coerced or unaware will be offered sanctuary in my territory or safe passage to Pack of their choice. Over the next hours, they sorted through the aftermath. Most of the Silverwood Pack had been kept in the dark about Marcus's plans, forced to follow through loyalty or fear. Kale was true to his word. He offered them protection and a choice. Many accepted. Lydia Blackthorn was traumatized but alive. She'd been told the ritual would make her powerful, had believed Marcus's lies about creating an alliance that would strengthen both their bloodlines. When she learned the truth, that he'd planned to drain her completely, to kill her for her power, she broke down sobbing. I sat with her while Ash tended to her injuries. You saved me, she whispered. Why? You don't even know me. Because it was right, I said simply. Because my mother tried to stop this same magic from hurting people and failed. Because someone needed to finish what she started. The mate bond truth. Dawn was breaking when Kale found me sitting alone in the forest outside the Silverwood territory. The false torture scars had faded during the battle, dissolved by the dark magic explosion. My real injuries were minimal. Some bruises, a gash on my shoulder from Marcus's teeth. Nothing serious. It's done, Kale said, sitting beside me on the fallen log. Marcus is in custody. The grimoire is destroyed. The Silverwood Pack is dissolved. Your mother's mission is complete. So what happens now? I asked. Now you're free. I'll transfer your mother's full inheritance to you. Lands, gold, everything she was owed. You can go anywhere, do anything. You're not bound to any of this anymore. What about the mate bond? Kale was quiet for a long moment. I spoke with our high priestess. There's a ritual that can sever an unfinished bond. It's painful but effective. You'd be free of me, free to find your own path without being magically tied to an alpha king with too many enemies and too much darkness. Is that what you want? I turned to look at him, this powerful, dangerous, complicated man who trained me and protected me and tried so hard not to love me. Honestly, do you want me to leave? His crimson eyes met mine, and I saw everything there. Longing, fear, self-loathing, desperate hope. I want you to have the choice I never gave my first love. She was chosen, not fated, and she died because of me. Because I wasn't strong enough, wasn't careful enough, wasn't good enough to protect her. His voice went rough. I won't trap you in a life you didn't choose. I won't risk you dying because of my enemies. I want you safe more than I want you mine. That's not what I asked. What do you want from me, Sarah? The truth. Do you want me or not? Cale's control finally cracked. He grabbed my face in both hands and kissed me with desperate intensity, pouring months of restrained emotion into that single moment. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I want you so much it terrifies me, he said against my lips. I want you safe in my territory, by my side, in my bed. I want to complete the mate bond and spend the rest of my life protecting you and loving you and being worthy of you. But I won't choose for you. I won't take away your free will to serve my own desires. So you tell me, Sarah Ashford, what do you want? I thought about my mother, who'd chosen love over duty and found peace. I thought about the past months, learning who I really was, discovering strength I didn't know I had. I thought about the mate bond pulling at my chest, about Cale's reluctant smiles and brutal honesty, and the way he'd looked at me like I was precious even while teaching me to be deadly. I want, I said slowly, to complete the bond. I want to be your Luna, not because fate decided it but because I'm choosing it. I want to stand beside you and help lead your territory and finish what my mother started, creating a northern kingdom where dark magic has no place and wolves like us can finally find peace. I smiled. And I want you to stop trying to push me away because you think you're protecting me. I'm not fragile. You made sure of that. Cale's laugh was shaky. You're absolutely certain? Once the bond is complete, there's no severing it. You'd be tied to me for life. I'm certain. I took his hand. So show me how to complete it. The new beginning. The mate bond completion ritual was nothing like the dark magic Marcus had tried to perform. It was simple, beautiful. Just two wolves, two hearts, two souls choosing each other under the light of the setting sun. When Cale marked my neck with his teeth, when I marked his in return, the bond snapped fully into place with a golden warmth that flooded every part of me. I could feel him now, his emotions, his thoughts, his presence like a constant comfort in the back of my mind. And he could feel me, could sense my love and certainty and fierce determination to make this work. Luna Sarah Bloodstone, he whispered against my skin. It has a nice ring to it. 3 months later, I stood beside Cale on the balcony of the Northern Crown stronghold and looked out over a territory transformed. Former Silverwood Pack members who'd chosen sanctuary had integrated smoothly. The dark magic grimoire was destroyed. Marcus had been tried, found guilty, and exiled to a penal pack where he'd spend the rest of his life doing hard labor under strict supervision. Alive, but powerless, exactly as he deserved. And I'd found my mother's full inheritance. Not just lands and gold, but letters, journals, photographs of the woman who'd sacrificed everything to stop the darkness. I'd had them bound into a memorial book, placed in the Northern Crown Library, where anyone could learn about Elena Silverwood's bravery. Do you miss it? Cale asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. The quiet life you might have had if your mother had never left you that letter? Not even a little bit, I said honestly. That life was safe but empty. This life is dangerous and complicated and absolutely worth it. Even when my enemies try to kill you. Because Marcus was right about one thing, there are others who want my power. It won't always be this peaceful. I turned in his arms to face him. Then we'll face them together. That's what mates do. That's what Luna and Alpha King do. We protect each other and our pack, and we don't back down from fights that matter. Kale kissed me slowly, thoroughly. Through the mate bond, I felt his love, his pride, his wonder that he'd found someone who chose him despite everything. 3 years ago, I'd been nobody, a half-human girl who didn't know what she was. 2 years ago, I'd broken into the wrong mansion and made a deal with a devil. And now I was Luna of the Northern Territories, mate to the Alpha King, and exactly where I was meant to be. The universe, I decided, actually had a perfect sense of humor. And I couldn't wait to see what it had planned for us next.